Hi, everybody. My name is Richard Hicks. This is Always On VPN AMA. Ask Me Anything. Um, this is the April 2026 edition. I think this is the first one, or did we do one in earlier this year? I don't think so. I think it was late last year. Anyway, I forget. I should do them on a schedule, but I don't. I just do them when kind of ad hoc. So anyway, for those of you who may not be familiar with me, I'm the founder and principal consultant at Richard M. Hicks Consulting. You can find me on X at Richard Hicks. You can learn more about me by visiting the website, richardhicks.com. And the Always On VPN AMA is just that. It's kind of a community forum roundtable discussion about all things Always On VPN and related technologies, of course. But as always, if this is your first time joining, first, I appreciate you jumping on the call. It's great. Hopefully, you'll be able to learn some good information. But before we get started with the kind of meat and getting to the Q&A session, I do want to do a bit of housekeeping. As always, I would encourage you to support the newsletter. That's where I share current events, news and information, kind of breaking information. If there's urgent vulnerabilities or updates available, problems with updates, that happens. I will communicate those through the newsletter as well. Yeah, I promise you won't get a ton of spam from that. And I don't share the email or the distribution list with anyone, so you can be confident in that. Still have some training materials available for you. The current book is Implementing Always On VPN. Still applicable today. If you're supporting Always On VPN, would encourage you to get that. Have a fantastic Always On VPN course on Pluralsight, clocking it at nearly 7 hours. It is a magnum opus of video content about all things Always On VPN. Would encourage you to take a look at that. You can learn more there by going to aovpnbook.com or richardhicks.com/pluralsight. Also, as many of you know, I have partnered with the folks at VMonstra Online Academy, and they are my exclusive partner for delivering my training online. So all of my virtual training is handled completely through the Online Virtual Academy at VMonstra. And I want to share with you a couple of training sessions that we have coming up that might be of importance or use to all of you folks. The first one is the Mastering Microsoft Intune training course. This is not my training course. It's one that I participate in. So this is handled by Johan Avermark and his fantastic team. He's assembled kind of a cast of all-stars here for this training class. And it is basically a deep dive into all things Microsoft Intune. And Intune is important for Always On VPN administrators because Always On VPN is a workload that was really designed to be managed using Intune. And as we move towards more, cloud native endpoints, Intune management is going to become more and more crucial. So this is a 1-week course, 5 days. I am delivering, I think, a 2-hour session on Intune and certificates in this course, but you will learn everything about Intune, all up, deploying, managing, everything. And so my contribution to this course is I'm doing a module on Intune and certificates. So anyway, would encourage you to check that out. You can go to richardhicks.com/Intune Masterclass to learn more and register for that. Now, I do also have another Mastering Enterprise PKI certificates with Intune course coming up. We've already done one this year. I don't remember. I probably promoted it during the last one. I think we delivered that in January, February. I forget now. Anyway, this is a great class, 3-day deep dive, comprehensive dive into all things delivering certificates with Intune, issuing and managing certificates using PKCS, using SCEP. We talk about deploying the certificate connector. We go super deep into deploying SCEP, NDES, Network Device Enrollment Service, which is phenomenally complex if you've ever had to do that. We also cover Cloud PKI for Intune and all sorts of things. So it's a 3-day deep dive. I would strongly encourage you to register for that. This course is coming up. It's a little ways off, but I wanted to get it on the calendar, but it is in September. Where's my pen here? There it is. There it is. Cool. Anyway, this is coming up in September, so September 1 to 3. And here's the deal, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to share this with you on this session, is that this also includes a free all access pass. So if you're not familiar with the Via Monstra Online Academy, they have tons of fantastic training material there. And it is not all systems management. There's a lot of great Active Directory stuff there. I have a certificate in PKI training there, Always On VPN training there. There's tons and tons of great stuff there. That all access pass, I believe, is I think it's like $600 or $700 a year. So if you sign up, so here's the deal: if you sign up for a masterclass between now and I think it's May 31, you get a free all access pass. So that's kind of the reason I'm promoting this a little bit early, because it's coming up in September. But at the end of the day, this is an incredible value. You can sign up for this masterclass, and then you get a 1-year all access pass at complimentary. So it's a fantastic way to save quite a bit of money. So I would encourage you to do that. I also want to talk about my upcoming PKI fundamentals course. This is not until October. This is an interesting one, and we actually did a PKI fundamentals class earlier this year. And this is an interesting one because the fundamentals classes are more high level. They're not super technical deep dives. And they're also delivered over a 6-week period. And so they're basically 2-hour chunks on Thursday, usually on Thursday afternoons. I think we start at like 3 Central Time. And so we basically do the course in modules over a 6-week period. So there's 6 2-hour chunks. So it's really easy to consume. It is a basic PKI class. So it talks about how to install and configure Microsoft Active Directory services, Active Directory certificate services in a kind of basic and standard deployment, right? And so lots of stuff about certificate basics, a lot of implementation and security best practices and things like that. And so if you're interested in that, would encourage you to register. That is, again, starting in October of this year is the first date, and it actually runs through December. So it's just 2-hour each module. I think there's 6 modules. Each module is a 2-hour module, and that'll start on October 22nd. If you want to learn more about that or register, you can go to richardhicks.com/PKI fundamentals. I will also share with you that the cost for this course is pennies. It's like it's less than $200, and you will learn. You'll get just a ton of ADCS training that you will be absolutely blown away that you can actually obtain this knowledge for this amount. It's pretty impressive. Very good. By the way, the Via Monstra Online Academy is where you'll find all of my virtual training, all of my training, including my physical in-person training. You can find that information at richardhicks.com/training. And so I do in-person training classes around the world in various different places. So if you're interested in seeing any of that or attending any of those courses, you can go there. I don't think I have anything on the calendar yet, although I'm going to be announcing some dates for later this year soon. But if you also, and here's the thing, is if you have enough interest in your area, if you can get 3 to 5 people that can commit to attending a training class, I'm happy to come pretty much wherever you are. So it's pretty easy to get that. So if you have first of all, if you have a large company and we can host it at your office, that's fantastic. But if you have, and I do this all the time, where you get a number of organizations in one region who say, hey, we're going to commit 1 or 2 people to this, and we can get 5 or 7 people in a training room somewhere. We certainly do that all the time. So anyway, you can go to richardhicks.com/training and learn more there. I'm also going to be out and about this year, as I always am, attending a variety of conferences. The first one I think coming up here for me is the Microsoft Midwest Management Summit, MMS-MOA. I'm giving a couple of talks there, one on Entra Private Access and another one on Cloud PKI, I think. So if you're attending that, hope to see you there. If you're interested in checking out, it may be sold out, but if it's not, visit mmsmoa.com. If you're going to be there, look forward to seeing you there, and be sure to say hello. I'm also scheduled to be at the Tech Mentor event in Redmond at the Microsoft headquarters in August of this year. So August 3 to 7. This is one of my favorite conferences. It's great. It's in the Seattle area. It's in Redmond. It's on the Microsoft campus. They actually host it at the Microsoft Executive Briefing Center, the conference center there. Beautiful facility. I love it because it's not a huge conference. It's kind of a smaller, more quaint conference. But the lineup of speakers is fantastic. I mean, folks like Sami Laiho, Paula Janashevitz. There's all kinds of fantastic speakers that attend that. And one of the best events, I think, in the U.S. for sure. It's great. It's a great conference. I will be there. If you'd like to save $500 on your conference pass, use code Hicks by May 15th. And just you can go to techmentor.com/MicrosoftHQ and register there. Lastly, I do want to share a bit about our Discord channel. I think I've talked about this in the past, but I just want to remind everybody we do have a Discord channel. Our good friend Leo Darcy, the creator of Always On VPN DPC, Dynamic Profile Configurator, created the Discord channel as a kind of a support channel for Always On VPN DPC, the software. But we have also created a bunch of other channels to talk about other things that might simply not be DPC. For example, just regular Always On VPN. If you're not doing DPC, you don't have DPC questions, but you got Always On VPN questions, jump in and join us. We can talk about that. We have an Entra Private Access channel, direct access, even a PKI channel. So if you have questions or you want to talk and just kind of communicate with your peers, sometimes it's not communicating, it's commiserating. But you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, lots of Discord channels there. Seth, great to have you on the boards there as well. By the way, Leo and myself kind of run this thing, but there's lots of other great contributors there as well. And it's great because when I'm traveling or if I'm just busy and can't get to it, I'll jump on and look at this and say, hey, everybody's kind of taking care of each other. So it's fantastic. Lots of great experience there. And so great place to be. Join us, that URL if you want to sign up or if you want to join us, discord.aovpndpc.com. Real quick, anybody who is on the Discord channels now, just give me a quick low or hand raise on the, give me a reaction there. Let's just see if anybody else, I see Seth is on there. Anybody else? A couple of other folks, outstanding. Very good, good. Awesome. Great to have you on here, by the way. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your contributions on the channels as well. All right, let's before we get to the Q&A, I do want to cover a couple of key topics around Always On VPN, and one of the most important, I think, is this 47-day public TLS certificate deal. Now, I have spoken about the 47-day certificates probably the last couple of AMAs, and I'm kind of banging the drum on this because we really need to get out in front of this because this is coming pretty quickly. If you're not familiar with this, yeah, Seth, you're gonna don't steal my thunder, Seth. CertKit is awesome. Yes, we'll get to that. 47-day certificates. If you're not familiar with this, the public CA sanctioning or governing body has collectively decided that they are going to shorten the public TLS certificate lifetime from its current, which is I think 398 days, which is roughly 1 year, to just 47 days, which is roughly 1 month. Now, this doesn't happen immediately. It's going to happen over time. But there's some compelling reasons for that. One of the biggest reasons that we're moving to 47-day certificates is we need a more agile and more resilient infrastructure or ecosystem for public TLS certificates. If there's a vulnerability that's disclosed, we need to more rapidly be able to turn over certificates. By the way, with the coming of quantum computers and post-quantum computing and the challenges that quantum computing poses to classic encryption algorithms like RSA and ECC, that it's possible that once a cryptographically relevant quantum computer is achieved, that an attacker might be able to just simply brute force RSA and ECC in a trivial amount of time. And so we are now, the industry is moving towards what's known as PQC, or post-quantum cryptography. These are quantum resistant or quantum safe algorithms, but they're brand new. And what we don't know is if they will actually be viable in the future. What happens if we've started down this path and ultimately we chose the wrong path? The idea behind a 47-day certificate is that we can more rapidly switch algorithms or change algorithms and change out keys. And so there's some real advantages to that. Also, from a security perspective, having a shorter certificate lifetime does reduce the impact of private key compromise. So anytime a private key is compromised, by the way, private key compromise is difficult, if not impossible, to detect. And so an attacker has, if you have a certificate that's good for a year today, and this was more problematic in the past when we had 3, 4, and 5-year certificates. But when you have these certificates that are very long-lived, that attacker basically has the private key and can do what they want for an extended period of time. Now, if it's compromised, well, you got about roughly a month to have fun with it, and then that certificate expires and we don't have to worry about it. It also reduces or eliminates the need or dependency on certificate revocation, which is a whole nother story that's entirely broken on the internet, but don't get me started on that. But ultimately, the idea behind 47-day certificates also is that it encourages automation. We want to get to a point where the process of enrolling and renewing TLS certificates is automated and not a manual process. So the idea here is that if we automate this, it will be less error prone and have some other advantages as well. Now, as I'd mentioned before, the public certificate lifetime being reduced to 47 days does not happen immediately or overnight. So in phase one, what we're doing is going from 398 days to 200 days. That date has passed. So today, if you were to purchase a new public TLS certificate from DigiCert, it would not be good for 398 days. It would be good for 200 days. So we're already past milestone 1, which is the March 15th deadline. So I renewed my wildcard certificate, I think in January or February. So I have it. It's good for a year. But at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, it's the last time I'm ever going to use a public TLS certificate. That they're going to be pretty much pointless after this. They probably were already, but they're really going to be useless after this. So anyway, March 15th, that's the date for the 200 days. So we are at the 200-day deadline. In phase 2, we're going to move to 100 days, and that is coming up on March 15th of 2027. So that is next year. It'll be here before you know it. So, and then of course we get a bit of a break because the phase 3 actually gives us about a 2-year break. So once we get to 100 days in 2027, we have now 2 years, a full 2 years before we drop phase 3 on you and go to the 47-day certificates. Now, we obviously want to be able to automate this process as much as possible. And during, I think the last AMA, I think I shared some solutions with you. By the way, I have been using the Posh Acme, the PowerShell Acme module, which is fantastic. And I think on the last call, I shared with you a bunch of other solutions like Simple Acme, which is the successor to Win Acme, by the way. Simple Acme, on the Linux platform, we have CertBot, but that doesn't really help us for Always On VPN admins. I think I talked about Certify the Web. There's a handful of tools out there that already do this. One of them that I told you about is a service called CertKit, which is an online service. I'm not going to do the whole sales pitch on CertKit because I did that during our last session. But as a review, and if you missed that session, CertKit is fantastic. CertKit is a solution. By the way, you can go there today, certkit.io. It's a cloud service that allows you to fully automate the enrollment and renewal of Let's Encrypt certificates. Now, um, again, in the past, I'd shared with you that you could do this yourself. You could PowerShell the Acme PowerShell module. You could do that directly. Fantastic tool, and it works very well. Obviously free. Um, One of the challenges, of course, though, is not just enrolling and renewing certificates. That's just part of the problem. We need to get the certificate installed and configured on the workload, but we also want to validate it. For example, if I'm doing a kind of roll your own solution where I'm having to write my own scripts to do this, that's fantastic. But how do I know it actually worked? There is no validation with that. It just runs on a scheduled task, tries to do its thing. It might be successful, it might not. And so ultimately there were some shortcomings with that. It doesn't really scale well, doesn't give you any sort of visibility or anything like that. The nice thing about the CertKit service is that it does come with monitoring and reporting. So not only are you able to automate the issuance and enrollment for those certificates, but you also get monitoring, reporting, email alerting. So they provide email notifications and things like that. And it's super, super easy to consume. You go to certkit.io, you sign up for an account, you create a CNAME record in your DNS, and you basically just offload the Let's Encrypt challenge process to them. They securely enroll for the certificate and then place that into storage spot or a storage bucket on their platform. And then if you remember from last time, I gave you some sample code that would allow you to go and retrieve the certificate, bring it onto the store, the certificate store, and bind it to the SSTP listener and restart the service and things like that. I put some sample code out on GitHub if you wanted to see that. And that was a good solution. So things have changed a little bit since then. So recently, and within the last couple of months, the folks at CertKit introduced something called CertKit agents. So this is phenomenal, by the way. So CertKit agents are available for Windows, Linux, and Docker, but in terms for our purposes, we're mostly concerned about Windows. And it allows you to basically be able to issue, deploy, and verify certificate Let's Encrypt certificates in your environment. It supports Windows workloads. So the agent actually does discovery. So when you install the agent on your Windows server, it detects automatically what workloads you have installed, and then you can manage certificates for each of those workloads. So the currently supported workloads that are automatically detected are IIS, Always On VPN, Direct Access. It also supports RDP. If you want to use public TLS certificates for RDP, you can do that. If you have a PKI, if you have ADCS deployed today, your private C is a better choice for that. But if you don't have any certificates, you want to do this with public certificates, you can certainly do that. The nice thing about this also is that it supports scheduled deployment. So for example, when we are using this for the Always On VPN workload, when you bind a new TLS certificate to the SSTP listener, you must restart the remote access service. That's disruptive. And so you have the ability to be able to schedule that. So I want to do just a quick demo of this and just show you a little bit about this. Let me come over to my CertKit deployment. So I've gone to certkit.io, I've logged in, and basically what I have is a handful of applications. So I've created these applications. And by the way, within these applications, you can have multiple certificates. So for here, I've got a couple of VPN servers. By the way, you'll notice here that I'm using short-lived certificates. Check this out. 5 days. Always on, or excuse me, Let's Encrypt supports 6-day certificates. Why did I choose 6-day certificates? Arguably a bit overkill for this workload. 6-day certificates might be important for things that are dynamic services, maybe containers that just spin up momentarily, or for a day or two and spin back down and get destroyed or something like that. Transient workloads, those types of things. I use short-lived certificates in my lab for a couple of reasons. One, just to test it. Two, it allows me to fully exercise my automation process. So this is beautiful because I don't have to wait a 90 days and then find out, oh, something didn't work and I didn't have something configured correctly. I'm going to know pretty quickly if this is not working. In about 3 to 5 days, I'm going to know if there's a problem. So in my lab, I've set it up for 6-day certificates. It rotates very rapidly and it's fantastic. By the way, I build new VPN VMs all the time for testing and evaluation. And so this is fantastic. I don't need, 90-day certificates even. So anyway, that being said, I have a bunch of certificates here. Here's the monitoring aspect that I told you about. So I have a bunch of domains that I'm monitoring, and you'll notice here, I'm not even, these are certificates that I don't even manage. So I'm monitoring, these are under monitor only. So I can monitor services that I don't even manage the certificates for. These are managed all by Cloudflare. But the ones that are managed by me have the solid green dot. So if I go in here and look at this, you can get some information about your certificate. By the way, you'll notice that I did have some expirations here. I was traveling last week and not paying close attention to things, and it kind of ignored all these warnings. So anyway, when I got back in the office, I had to fix this. This was a victim of something I'm going to talk about a little bit later here. We'll talk about it shortly. But anyway, known issue with Windows Server 2025 and RS. But anyway, lots of stuff. By the way, you can do discovery. You want to see what's in your domain. We can just click on search and boom, it picks up all of the known certificates for this particular domain. And I can see that some are managed by CertKit, some are not. So fantastic tool. But anyway, it does support Always On VPN direct access I'd mentioned before. By the way, with direct access, there's some additional work you have to do. Once you install the agent, there's a PowerShell script that you have to run to set the right permissions, because we have to the agent has to be running under a service account to be able to make those changes, because they actually go into Active Directory and group policy. I can share more information with you on that if you need it. You can hit me up, or I can post a link in the chat here a little bit later. But if you're interested, if you're still running direct access, this is a great solution to be able to manage that. But anyway, if I go over here, let's see, I want to talk about agents. That's right. So if I go to agents, what you'll find here is that I have a specific agent here, and what you'll see here also is that it has discovered software. This is automatically discovered. So it discovered on this box that I installed the agent on that IIS and RDP were running. So if I dig a little bit farther into this agent, remember what I talked about with service windows or schedules. If you go to additional options, this is when I can set the schedule for when this certificate can be deployed. This is crucial for Always On VPN because restarting the service is disruptive. So we don't want to do this in the middle of the day. So you can choose an outage window, specify the time, and that way the certificate, when it needs to be renewed, will wait for the service window. Once you're in window, the certificate will be pulled down, the service will be restarted, everything will be good, and you're off to the races. So that's really cool. So the beauty about all of this, of course, is again, you install the agent. It's a lightweight software component that gets installed on your servers. Does support Windows Server Core. Thank you. And basically, this is set it and forget it. You enroll for your certificates. You install the agent. You assign a certificate to the agent. Boom, you're up and running, and it just fully automated. There's absolutely no PowerShell code that you need to manage. So no custom code on your part, nothing. You just install the agent and everything will work. Install the agent, sign up for the CertKit service, and you're off to the races. The CertKit service was in beta, so it was free up to this point. They are exiting beta imminently if they haven't already done so. I don't know if Eric is on the call. I invited Eric from...
Hey, Richard. I think we're all here, actually.
Hey, the whole team. Fantastic. Thank you. So everyone, this is Eric Brandis. Are you the CEO of CertKit?
I guess technically I'm the CTO.
CTO? Okay. He's the big kahuna. We'll call him that. Anyway, so he's basically responsible for this product. And did I cover everything? Is there anything that I left out on that?
I thought that was above and beyond. That was fantastic.
Good deal. By the way, Eric, are you formally out of beta?
The plan right now is actually first thing tomorrow morning, we're going to exit the beta.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So, and I just saw another question pop up. Do we only support Let's Encrypt certificates? Currently, yes, but actually, like probably next week, we're going to start onboarding like Google Cloud, like Google's trust services to make sure we can do that and handle like external account binding. And once we've got that figured out, then it's just, whoever else wants to be added should be pretty straightforward.
Fantastic. Great to hear. Yeah, I'm surprised that I've gotten a bit of pushback about Let's Encrypt. People have some concerns about it, and I can't imagine what those are. But as long as there's other services that we can use, if they want to use Google Trust, fantastic. But yeah, use somebody because you definitely want to automate it. So that's fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Eric. I appreciate it. All right. So that I just want to get back to our conversation here. So we talked about CertKit agents. Again, if you're using this for any of the Microsoft workloads, always on VPN, direct access, you have IIS servers, CertKit agents, CertKit, fantastic. If you're using Linux, they have agents for Linux, for Docker, super easy to configure and deploy. Wholeheartedly recommend their solution. I think it's fantastic. They've saved me a ton of grief because in the early days of this, I was just racking my brain to write, PowerShell code. It's still out there. It's in my GitHub. If you want to do it the hard way, you can do it. But man, I'll tell you what. Once I came into contact with these guys and found out that it was this easy, man, it's a lifesaver. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And thank you for joining the call. Appreciate it. So if anybody else has any calls, any questions about CertKit, we have the CertKit team on the call. So please don't hesitate to jump in the chat there and ask away. They'll probably hang out for a little bit longer. Getting back to Always On VPN, the last bit of housekeeping that I want to talk about is Always On VPN DPC. By the way, if you're on the call and you're not familiar with DPC, Always On VPN DPC, or Dynamic Profile Configurator, is the brainchild of my good friend Leo Darcy. He's usually on these calls, but today he's wrangling toddlers, I think, or babies. He's got a young one, and he's he's tied up. He's Mr. Mom today, so he wasn't able to join us, but he did want me to share with you some updates about DPC. By the way, again, DPC is a software component that allows you to deploy and manage always on VPN client configuration settings using Active Directory and group policy. And you can extend this to the cloud using Intune because you can deploy the software agent using Intune. Intune also supports uploading custom ADMX and ADML files. So you get the advantages of DPC. By the way, the advantages of DPC are not just the management capabilities. There's a lot of advanced features in DPC that will make deploying and managing DPC infinitely easier. So if you're interested in learning more about that, go to aovpndpc.com or just reach out to me. I'd be happy to give you a demo. But what's new in DPC? Well, the latest release is 5.3 that came out in January. The biggest change in that one was support for IPv6 for exclusion routes. For Office 365, those weren't there. It was kind of problematic before that, but Leo came up with some solutions to address that. There were some community contributions there as well. I believe other miscellaneous fixes, improvements are included in that. So 5.3 is the latest release. I will share with you, and Leo wanted me to share with you, that the next release of DPC is coming soon. Imminently, sooner rather than later. We don't have a specific date because there's some code review that still has to take place, and he is a busy man, and this is an open source project, and he does have a job and a life. So it's coming soon. But the good news is code signing is coming to DPC. So this is going to be fantastic. Leo was able to obtain a code signing certificate, and he is now going to be able to sign the releases. So the next release will be signed. This is helpful because it's going to make downloading and installing the software that much easier. You won't get nagged left and right to that you're installing, unknown software. Importantly, if you are using this, the next release being signed, the service and the libraries will also be signed, which means if you're using App Locker or Windows Defender Application Control, it will play nicely with those, so you don't have to worry about dealing with those issues as well. Also, we are introducing support for EAP-TLS. So traditionally, it started in the commercial open source or the commercial DPC product, which was we tried to stick with, or they tried to stick with security best practices as much as possible. And security best practice for always on VPN for authentication is protected EAP. We've had many folks ask about downgrading that essentially to EAP TLS, and basically due to overwhelming requests, and also the fact that this is an open source project, a project now and not a commercial project, Leo decided that it was time to allow the use of less secure protocols. It's not that EAP TLS is insecure, by the way. It's just that protected EAP is kind of the recommended best practice. EAP-TLS is still a good solution. It is less secure, slightly less secure than protected EAP, but it still works very well. Ultimately, the advantage to using EAP-TLS, extending EAP-TLS support to DPC, is that it does ease some of the pain of third-party integration. If you're using VPN appliances that are non-Microsoft, if you're not using RAS and NPS, but you're using, Cisco, you're using a Cisco router or firewall and using Cisco ICE, or you're using something else, sometimes getting protected EAP to work on those platforms can be challenging. And in some environments, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So using EAP-TLS does kind of make things a little bit easier. So EAP-TLS coming. I don't have an ETA. I would expect, within the next month or so, probably 3.1. I don't think it's a major release. So, but anyway, I think that's coming soon. But anyway, good stuff. Should be great. By the way, there are the EAP-TLS is also important because this was, I think, entirely a community contribution. So if you want, DPC is open source. You can go to GitHub and find that. I don't know what the link is off. I can't think of it off the top of my head because it's not something I can remember. It's not like GitHub/DPC. I'll need to come up with something on that. But anyway, it is on GitHub. You can contribute, and the EAP-TLS integration was performed, I think, entirely by other folks. Thank you, Simon, for posting that. I appreciate it. So anyway, if you want to contribute, more than happy to do that. If you have a feature request, submit a feature request. If you have the chops to code, create it and submit a pull request. So we'd love to have everybody support that. I'm not a developer, so I can't contribute. All I can do is test and evaluate. So anyway, very good. Moving on. Just wrapping things up here. My list of known issues for our Always On VPN is fairly short this month, or this session, I guess. The biggest challenge that I'm facing today and my customers are facing is with Windows Server 2025. Curious, anybody here, by show of hands, running Windows Server 2025 RAS in their environment for Always On VPN? Anyone? Real quick. Cool. Couple of folks. All right. So you are likely familiar with the issue where the remote access service hangs when you try to restart the service. Typically, it happens on restart. It can affect reboots as well. I discovered it pretty early on. I think in my earliest workings with Server 2025, I had noticed that I had scripts, for example, that would restart the service when you're doing certain things, and all of a sudden it would just sit there and hang, right, waiting for service to restart and just hang and just sit there forever. And I noticed that in early on. After a bit of research, what I've learned is that it only happens after the RAS server processes at least one VPN connection. So basically, when the virtual Ethernet adapter gets created, so if you're familiar with how RAS works, it creates a virtual adapter to terminate VPN connections. That adapter is not created until the first connection is established, and then after that, it just lives perpetually until the service restart or until the server reboots. Once it processes a connection and that a virtual adapter is added, it will hang on restart. It will hang on reboot. Sometimes it will blue screen on reboot. It's a real problem. I'm assuming that most of you have had this problem if you're using Windows Server 2025. The good news is that a fix is due out soon. I did some testing with this with the latest Windows Server Insider builds, and the issue is fixed in the insider build. So that's great. What it means is that the issue has been addressed by Microsoft. It's going to be pushed out during the updates at some point. And I don't know, is Philip on? Philip, are you on? Philip, there he is. I see you,
Yep.
Philip. I can't hear you.
I'm
Hey,
here.
there you are. Am I correct? Everybody on the call, this is Philip. He works for Microsoft and has some intimate knowledge here. Can you share with it? Is that due out in April still? Do you know?
I believe it's May. Let me check. Let me find the bug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I think this is supposed to be out in April, and I think it comes out with the security updates, but I'm not certain. But Philip will let us know.
It should be with the B update, so the Patch Tuesday.
Okay, Patch Tuesday. Okay,
let me check if it's April or May. I think it got pushed to May.
Bummer. Okay. All right. So, by the way, for those of you who were with me earlier when I was showing you that my certificate had expired in CertKit, when the CertKit agent was trying to restart the service, it hung, which is related to this issue. So I ended up having to throw together a quick script that would detect if the service was in the stopping state for longer than X amount of time, it would just reboot the server. So anyway, hopefully April or May, whenever this is due out, this pain will go away. I probably wouldn't advise you to run an insider build in production, although I have it running in my lab. It seems to be running just fine, but probably not a good workaround. Hopefully this fix comes out sooner rather than later. Jonathan, you had a question. I see your hand is raised. I don't know if that was because you had a question or if it was by accident. If you're talking, you're on mute. Got it. Thanks. Yeah, your hand is raised like you had a question, so I didn't know if you wanted to chime in, but yeah. So you've probably experienced this problem. Most of you are running 2025 probably experienced this problem as well. So anyway, April or May, hopefully, if you get some more information there, Philip, or if you have something more positive, let me know. But let's move on. Let's just open it up to folks. And kind of get to the heart of the conversation here, and let's hear what everybody else is working on. Anybody else working on anything interesting and fun, or having any challenges or issues, or any questions at all we can answer for you about anything? Anyone at all? Martin. Very good. Let's see here. Martin's got a question in the chat. Our cybersecurity team is pushing us to use ECDH P384 instead of RSA on a new AOVPN implementation. Have you ever tried using that or any non-RSA algorithm with ACS issued AOVPN certs? Yes, absolutely. So ECDH, which is an elliptic curve algorithm, and for everybody on the call, if you're not familiar with elliptic curve, it's basically a more modern version of RSA. Think of it that way. It's basically a little bit different. That's probably grossly oversimplified, but it's the next. It's a modern replacement for RSA, right? RSA has been around a long time, but elliptic curve is a lot better. The kind of TLDR on that is elliptic curve algorithms support stronger security with much smaller key sizes. So it uses different math to do the cryptography. So for example, a 256-bit EC key, elliptic curve key, provides the functional equivalent roughly of an RSA 3072-bit key. But again, much smaller key size, 256 bits. So from a performance perspective, that's great because it means less bytes on the wire. The TLS handshake happens much faster, and so there's a lot of advantages to that. The certificate chain is much smaller, so it's fantastic. To answer your question, Martin, yes, I've been using and recommending EC certificates for SSTP. For many years, and using those almost exclusively. If you look at my environments, they're all using elliptic curve for SSTP. the challenge with using elliptic curve, and by the way, elliptic curve is fully supported in RRES. You can use it for SSTP. You can use it for user and device authentication. That's not a problem at all. So to answer the high level answer to your question, Martin, is yes, absolutely. You can use those without any issues whatsoever. However, for user and device certificate authentication, when you start using elliptic curve or EC certificates, although it's supported in TPM 2.0, older TPM don't support EC certificates, and many platforms that have TPM 2 still don't support elliptic curve with TPM for reasons I don't have an answer to, unfortunately. So often what you'll find is that you can't or you can't enforce TPM when you're using elliptic curve certificates for user and device authentication. So we typically, for user and device authentication, we'll still use RSA, even though EC is more secure. The risk here is greater from key compromise than it is somebody breaking the algorithms. So we typically recommend that you stick with RSA for user and device authentication, but you can absolutely use EC for the public TLS certificate, and that is that's a great win for security and performance. And Let's Encrypt and most other providers support EC as well. Does that answer your question, Martin?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it even answered one that I might have here in the future, because we have another part of the planning is that we're going to have a certificate template that will be for devices that don't have it, can't support TPM, and so we can apply that RSA in that template only, knowing that it's not for we call it insecure devices template.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you just use a different policy, right? Shorter certificate lifetimes and things like that. Absolutely. Yeah. But be careful because again, with an elliptic curve certificate template, you can't specify the Microsoft platform crypto provider, so you cannot enforce or restrict TPM enrollment on the endpoint. So it wouldn't allow an attacker to enroll for a certificate or allow the endpoint to potentially enroll for a certificate using EC that is not protected by TPM. So it's using a software key storage provider, and so in that case, the keys are exposed. And so for that reason, I still recommend to my customers to use RSA for user and device authentication, but use EC for the SSTP listener. That way we ensure and we have the ability to enforce the use of the platform crypto provider, which is the CSP for the TPM, and not allow anybody to enroll for it outside of that, unless that's an exception, and then you have a different policy for that. So that's the risk of using EC for user and device authentication, is you lose support for TPM. So you have to decide what's the greater risk, somebody breaking the algorithm or somebody stealing the keys because they're not protected by TPM. The latter is in my view, the biggest concern.
Right, and that's the latter is the bigger worry of our cyber team. So I'm glad you brought that up too. Cool.
Yep. Yeah, do some testing because TPM2 is supposed to support EC. I have TPM2 devices and I can't seem to get one to enroll for it. So I don't know what the challenge is, or I shouldn't say that. There's no way that I have found to get the template in AD to enforce TPM enrollment. I believe somebody told me that Uwe Gradenegger has a blog post about how to do that. I haven't tried that yet. There may be a way to do that, but I probably have to dig into that a little bit more. But yeah, ultimately though, this exercise might be a moot point because you might need PQC sooner than later. So we'll have to see how that goes. All right. Great question. Let me get caught up here. So thanks for the questions in the chat, everybody. And let me get to these here. Eric says, my book says to enable fast reconnect in the NPS policy. That is correct. That's current. I noticed in my custom XML and the EAP config, it's true. So here's the deal. Great question. Enable fast reconnect is an option in the EAP configuration. and it's really a wireless setting. It's most important for wireless settings. And so basically what Fast Reconnect does, Fast Reconnect kind of, how do I put it? It doesn't short circuit. It speeds up the process of authenticating by kind of taking a shortcut. In other words, what it says is, hey, I was authenticated before and my connection got dropped. So now I'm reconnecting. And since I authenticated fully a little while ago, go ahead and trust me. Fantastic for Wi-Fi when you're moving from access point to access point. You might be hitting a different AP controller, and so you might be re-authenticated. In that case, if that happens on a frequent basis, there's some advantages to that. However, for VPN, we don't want to trust anybody because Wi-Fi is opened up to anybody within, broadcast distance of the AP, of the access point. Our VPN servers are open up to the entirety of the internet. So we want to make sure that anybody is connecting to the VPN is 100% fully authenticated. So if your connection drops and you re-authenticate, I don't care how long it takes, I want to fully re-authenticate you just to ensure that there's no shenanigans taking place there. So that's why that recommendation is there. It doesn't save us like a lot of time. In other words, it's not as if you check or uncheck that box, it will be imperceptible to you either way. So my recommendation is disable it because it does improve security posture.
For sure. Okay. But then should the custom XML also be changed to false?
So on the client side, yes, that's the recommendation. So if the NPS server is turned off, if that's turned off on the NPS server, even though the client has it turned on, it basically won't be used, right? Because the NPS server says, no, I'm dictating the rules of the road here. If you're going to connect with me, we're not using Fast Reconnect. So the best place to enable it or disable it is on the NPS server in the policy, but it's best practice to disable it. It's best practice to disable in both. If you've disabled it on the NPS server but not the client, that's not the end of the world. I would still update it at some point, but it's enforced by the NPS policy essentially.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great.
Fantastic. Simon, your username on GitHub, it's not stupid if it works. You know what? I can't argue with you, my friend. I asked the question about the IPv6 problems, element not found with Always On VPN on Windows 11. Is this a known issue? Good question. If you can come off mute and clarify that. Element not found. Is this when you're establishing a VPN connection when you have IPv6 enabled? What is that?
Yes, when I have an IPv6 server endpoint and try to connect,
okay,
I force the host name to be IPv6.
Okay.
With the local host file.
Okay.
And getting element not found. I also tried with my own byhole to set a record IPv6 only, but it doesn't work. It always get the error message, element not found.
Okay, so your RAS server has an IPv6, a public IP or global unicast IPv6 address, and it's reachable from the internet. And so your client has an IPv6 from your ISP, and so you have IPv6 end-to-end connectivity to your VPN server. Now, I'm assuming that when you connect to the same VPN server over IPv4, it works, correct?
Yes, IPv4 works.
Okay, but when you simply switch to IPv6 on the same host and the same RAS server, it fails to work.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay, so I've done a lot of work with IPv6. However, I don't know that I've ever done any testing with RAS on IPv6. And so I don't have any direct experience here. However, I have heard rumors. I've had others complain. Well, first of all, it's not uncommon to have problems with IPv6 connectivity to Always On VPN, but mostly those were scenarios in which you were trying to get to an IPv4 VPN server on an IPv6 only network. So many ISPs, their backbones are IPv6 only. There's no IPv4. So IPv4 is basically is a service over an IPv6 underlay, right? And in those scenarios, some of the transition technologies like DS Lite and 464XLAT and things like that cause problems for Always On VPN. Those break. But if you go native IPv6, we've taken any of the transition and translation technologies out of the equation. I don't see why that wouldn't work, but I'm going to pose this question to Philip.
So
Are you aware of?
I'm very sure it's a problem on the client. So
Yeah.
as soon as I try to connect, I get the error message and in the event queue, and I don't see any connection outbound on my firewall.
That is interesting. So Philip, are you aware of any limitations of using Always On VPN IPv6 end to end?
We still have a bug when you have a exclusion route. Oh, how was that? You have an exclusion route for IPv6, but you don't have IPv6 next hop, then the service crashes, and vice versa. If you have one for v4 but no v4 gateway, the service crashes. I think that's still pending fix.
Okay.
Other than that, no.
Interesting.
I believe I have this in one of my endless labs somewhere set up, so it should work.
Got it.
Element not found. That's odd.
I know. Simon, are you testing with IKE v2 or SSTP, or have you tried both protocols?
Only with IKE.
Only with IKE v2. Okay. I would really be interested to know if it worked with SSTP, just for sanity's sake. If you can test that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I will do more testing this week. Upgrade my Windows 11 to 25H2.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Try
Okay.
it again
And let me know how that works. I will endeavor to do some testing on this as well. I have IPv6 in my lab, but I probably should be using IPv6 anyway. So, but it's always been. It just still uses IPv4 because I'm lazy, I guess. But I'll do some testing on that as well. Do you have Simon? Do you have my email?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's on your website somewhere.
It is. It's super easy. It's just rich@richardhicks.com. Send me an email. Let me know what your testing results are, and that will also jog my memory to remind me to conduct some testing as well. And I'll see if we can triangulate on this and find out what's going on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I think I remember a customer with a dual stack setup. So they have v6 and v4 on their VPN service to work around this DS Lite fun. And I believe it's working fine for them.
Yeah, and the interesting thing here, Philip, is he's native. It's IPv6 end to end. So we shouldn't be using any of those technologies.
Maybe one thing in mind. I'm working from home, and in my home setup, I use NAT for IPv6.
Ah, okay.
Because I only got one 64 network for IPv6 and have multiple subnets, so I can use SLAAC. So maybe the NAT is a problem. Yeah,
entirely possible. Yeah, like I said, I'll do some testing and maybe we can compare notes. If it works for me and not for you, we can maybe see what we can come up with. But I'll let you know.
Could be the NAT, yeah. And NAT has never been a problem in the past, so yeah.
No, but again, with NAT in an IPv6, maybe there's some nuances there, and I'm assuming you're using, and I'm assuming, Simon, you're using NAT and not prefix translation, right? Actual NAT?
Actual NAT, yes.
Okay, got it. All right, very good. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Interesting. Well, I'll keep you posted on that, but let me know. You have my email address. Drop me a note and let me know what you find. Awesome. Mike, let's get to your question. You're fighting a VPN running on Mac OS based on a custom Intune profile. So your Mac OS question is disqualified. So I don't have anything to answer for you. I'm just kidding. But I don't have any Mac OS experience, though, unfortunately. But so you finally got it to work. That's fantastic. But I have no idea how to get it to use split tunneling. Interesting, with exceptions. Oh, that's interesting. Do I have any information regarding it? Unfortunately, no. So I have. You're farther along than I am with your Mac. If you got it to work, I attempted that. Not recently, but a while back, because I do have a Mac. I don't use it for anything other than testing stuff like that. But I wasn't even able to get a VPN profile to deploy to a Mac because it wouldn't work with Intune, or I couldn't get it to work with Intune. So you are farther down the road than I am, my friend. So the fact that you got it working is fantastic. But you said so Mike, if you're on, how did you use? Do you use custom XML, obviously, right? So and do you not use split tunneling in the XML configuration?
Yes, I I created this with Apple Configurator and exported it from there and modified it. But the described keywords doesn't really work. They just do nothing. So I was afraid about your answer, but I hope somebody else could help with that.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Richard, I had to do some testing with it, and Mike I believe Ike on Mac OS can only do force tunnel.
Oh, wow.
Based on Apple's description, it sounds it sounds as they could, but I didn't find anything regarding that.
I remember I looked into this with a customer maybe 2-3 years ago, because they had a quite big Mac OS deployment, and I think we only could get it to work. And when you maybe I'm confusing something, but when you tried it through the UI you have to use Ike, right? Because that's the only one which works.
Yeah.
And I believe you could only select force tunnel, and it was even mentioning it somewhere. Maybe it changed in the meantime, but back then I'm relatively certain you could only do force tunnel, and this is why the customer back then I was working with said, we're not going to use that.
Okay, then I stop searching.
Yeah. So
it
Mike,
might have changed. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, that there would be no option to do split tunneling, but that just seems kind of kooky. But it is Mac; they could do kind of what they want, I guess, over there. Question, Mike: you said that you're using custom XML, and in your XML, you define it as split tunnel. So you have split routing method split tunnel, and you have your routes defined in there, and the client is just ignoring it. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Even you have to define a standard route, and even if I do a standard route different from anything, so 000/0, it doesn't respect that. So it just doesn't work. The keyboard just doesn't work.
Huh. Okay.
Looks like they want you to do force tunnel.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, that kind of lends some credibility to what Philip is saying, is that it sounds like it may not be supported. I can certainly look into that. I have a Mac, but you've gotten farther than I have, so you have more experience in it than I do. But if anybody else on the call has Mac experience, please jump in. Also, Mike, you may want to hit the if you're not a member already, hit the Discord channel. Maybe ask there. There might be some folks there that have known. Reddit might be a good place for that too. In the Mac forums, the Mac people there probably hang out and probably have some good answers for you there. They can certainly clarify whether or not split tunnel is supported or not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Very good, Jonathan. Followed the course on Pluralsight. Can't open shared drives mapped on the desktop after connecting the VPN. The maps are server name, but on VPN you have to use FQDN. So tried NRPT and made sure that BIOS over TCP is enabled. That's great. Haven't moved past the client testing. Any deep dive articles or help on this? I don't necessarily have any deep dive articles on this. However, if you can access a resource by its FQDN, its fully qualified domain name, and not its short name or its NetBIOS name, that typically is a name resolution issue that results from the DNS suffix not being properly configured. So I would take a look really closely at your DNS suffix. that's assigned to the VPN adapter. One, in the configuration, make sure the DNS suffix is assigned there correctly. Also, once the interface is active, make sure that you see the DNS suffix assigned there. And I would expect it to work at that point. Did you say you are using NRPT or you are not using NRPT?
That was the last test I did this morning when I turned on NRPT and tried to get it to work, and it still didn't do it.
Doesn't work.
It does show the column. It does show the domain name in the interface. And like I said, I've got NetBIOS enabled all the way through. The one quirky thing on our network that I think might be an issue is that our firewall handles all routing between subnets.
Okay.
On a single interface, so it hits the interface, the same interface that hits so if you're going from the VPN to any of the servers, you're hitting the firewall first, and then a sonic wall, and then on to the servers.
Okay.
So I don't know if the server is not able to handle the NetBIOS in that case, or what. But,
yeah, that is very interesting. You're absolutely right. But typically the way the resolver works is that it will, for short names, it will append the DNS suffix and try that first. So, because obviously DNS is preferred and has been for some time. So that's quite puzzling as to why that works. I'm curious, does this happen on more than one client? Is this something that is it maybe an issue with this particular device? Is it domain joined or no?
Yes, they're both domain. We've tried it on 2 different laptops. They're both domain joined.
Okay.
We can RDP to things like we can RDP to a server without using the fully qualified domain name. We can ping it without the FQDN. We just can't browse to it without the FQDN on the File Explorer.
Okay. So you have connectivity.
Yeah, we have the ability to get to everything except our shares.
Okay. Yes. So then this is definitely a known issue. Let me pull this up here. Holy cow. There we go. Let's see. Let's see here. This post here. So short name access failure. This is kind of a known issue, right? So you can't access a resource using the short name, but you can get there using the FQDN. This sounds exactly like your problem, correct?
Right.
Awesome. Okay, great. So there's a couple of workarounds. You can update the RAS phone PBK to use RAS credentials equals 0. You can use Intune proactive remediations. I have some scripts here if you want to take a look at these. Oops, that's not the right link. Anyway, but the quick and dirty on this, just to make sure that it is a problem or is not a problem, is this PowerShell. You just run this command, so it basically sets this registry setting. I don't know if you have to reboot. I would recommend rebooting once just for good measure. I don't know, but you can also set this via group policy. There's a group policy setting for this as well. So if you go to that post, just go to my website and search. I just searched NetBIOS short name or something. Yeah.
Can you paste that link in the chat, maybe?
Oh yeah, let me do that. I'm right here. You're right. You got it. There you go. So yeah, I expect that'll probably take care of your problems there.
All right, I'll give that a shot. Thank you.
Good deal. Let me know how it goes. Yeah. Very good. Let's see here. Getting back to where are we at? Whose questions did I answer? Okay, that one. All right. Philip, thanks for following up on that. So it is April, Patch Tuesday, correct? 8B. Yeah.
Yeah, it's April. It was another bug.
Outstanding. Outstanding. By the way, for the folks on the call, if you're not familiar with the Microsoft terminology of the B, the 4B, I had to learn this. I had to learn this from Philip, so I'll share it with all of you. The B is the week of the month. So A, B, C, and D would be the weeks, right? So B would be the second week. So that's the Patch Tuesday. What is the other ones? These is C or D? Sometimes you release updates on. Right?
D is
D
for
is
D
like
is for
feature-
non-security feature preview,
Yeah,
which will
feature,
then
yeah.
be technically included in the next B release.
Correct.
We like to make things complicated. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Yep. Good deal. All right. So so look for that Server 2025 update, April B, the April patch Tuesday. I can't wait because it's going to make my life a lot easier, and I'm sure a lot of you as well. All right. Getting on to the next question here. Glenn, we've been running Always On VPN for a few years, despite using consistent laptop images. We have a mix of users with no issues and users who perpetually get the 631 error, disconnection at least once a day. So during this period, they typically immediately reconnect, but because the system destroys and rebuilds the entire VPN tunnel, they get a new IP, causes problems. Yep. So tried SyncML to identify XML issues, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. So we generally can't find anything unique to these machines that causes problem. All right. So this is interesting. So I'm assuming, Glenn, you are using Windows 11 and you are using custom XML. Are you using custom XML to deploy these via Intune? Is that correct?
That is correct. And we had this problem on Windows 10 as well. But yeah, now we're on 11.
Okay. So there's a known issue with Windows 11 with custom XML, where if the XML is not perfectly ordered and configured correctly, Intune thinks that the profile has changed, and so on every device sync, it actually removes the VPN profile and recreates it. Even though there haven't been any changes, it will recreate it. Now, the unusual thing you said is that it doesn't happen to everyone. Now, it could be happening to everyone. It just means that it might mean that not everyone has noticed it. So, but this is a known issue. The workaround's pretty simple. You just have to order your XML perfectly, right? It has to be in the syntax has to be exactly what Intune expects. And if it is not, Intune will try to replace it every time, thinking there's a problem. So if you want, I don't know if you've looked at this or not. I'd be happy to look at your XML if you wanted to email it to me. I'd be happy to take a look at it and see if there's any issues with it, and perhaps that'll resolve that problem for you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, rich@richhicks.com. Just send it to me. I'll look it over and send it back with any revisions that I think might be problematic. But yeah, this is a known issue. I think I actually talked about this on the last couple of AMAs. Where I don't expect this is going to get resolved because it's been a problem for quite a while, and I would hope they would have fixed it by now, but it hasn't been fixed, so I expect we're going to be dealing with it for a period of time. But again, it's easy enough to fix. You just have to make sure your XML is dialed in absolutely to the T for what Intune expects it to be, and if it does, then it works happily. So if it's related to that, we'll know, and then if it's not, maybe it's something else. I don't know, but we'll find out. But send that to me, and I'll take a look at it.
You know if there's a bug ID or anything tied to that issue? Because I just recently opened up a ticket with PSS and going back and forth on that issue to see if there's an update and getting some pushback. And
yeah.
So wasn't sure if you had maybe a contact or a bug ID or something I can send them to.
Yeah, that would be a question for Philip. I don't know if you're at liberty to share anything with us specifically, Philip, but I'm assuming somebody has to have complained about this in the past, right, Phil?
Yes. And this is being recorded, so I need to be careful what I'm saying.
Yes.
But,
sorry.
The biggest challenge here is teams need to talk to each other.
Good times.
So
yep.
And even that, I'm looking for help. I think I opened up the ticket with the Windows 11 team. They've looped in the Intune team, and I don't even know who to go to troubleshoot the issue. If Intune should own it, or if Windows 11 should own it, or some other team,
It is a ping pong between those teams. That's the biggest problem, I think, at this point. Feel free to hit me on Teams or email. I think I can find the bug ID for it.
I mean, that'd be hugely helpful.
Sure. Yeah.
Should I just drop your name, or are you willing to put your email in the chat here, or?
I'll put my email in the chat.
Because I could copy you on the ticket. Yeah, I don't know if there's a resolution. I'm just, wanting to go to the source and get the latest.
And unfortunately, there's no resolution, but the workaround is ordering XML, right? So, so you can work around it, but you're right. At some point, this wasn't a problem for Windows 10 historically, right? It happened when we moved to Windows 11. So something changed there. So, but yeah.
And that's where I feel a bit stuck, because to troubleshoot it, I think you have to export the XML. But and maybe I'm using the wrong protocol type, but I'm using what is it? The protocol list. And so in my protocol list, because I'm using that native protocol type, I can't export the XML.
That's right. That's
and
right.
So that's a known issue that you've called out in one of your posts.
That's a bug.
And so that's that was going to be one of my questions to you, is that if I want to use SSTP as primary, which I think is what you recommend, and I'm okay with allowing Ike v2 as backup, what's the current recommended native protocol type? Because I'm currently using the protocol list, and that's I'm kind of stuck there in a catch-22.
Yeah, exactly. So
protocol list has. Sorry, go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, it does have. Yeah, you're right. It has known issues. Just from my perspective, I always recommend just using SSTP and SSTP only, because it either works, or if SSTP doesn't work, then probably nothing's going to work. But I'll let you fill that in, Philip, with regard to that.
Yeah, I guess nowadays I would, as Rich said, I would go with SSTP. And nowadays you can actually set the type directly to SSTP.
Yes.
The CSP, the VPN v2 CSP was updated some time ago, a year, 2 years ago. It now accepts SSTP, but only on Windows 11 and newer.
Correct. Yeah.
And I believe you have to be at least at Windows 11 22H2, which is now old enough that probably on a newer version, so it should be okay.
Yep.
And so it should not use protocol list. Okay.
To be fair, I think there is no reason to use that anymore.
The protocol list?
And it's also a bit problematic, right? It has a few UI issues. So I guess nowadays I would just go with SSTP right away for that. Because the forward and backward fall in that's always it could always be a problem, right, in any direction. So yeah.
Okay, appreciate the pointer. Yeah, because I'm telling people to use SSTP as primary, and it felt like it was working for a bit. But then in the last month or two, when I'm spot checking, it looks like only a third of my users are using SSTP, and the rest are Ike v2. And so it's almost like something is failing with the SSTP auth, or so I don't know if that's a known issue, but.
Not likely. I think what's likely happening is it's just trying Ike v2 first, and it's successful. So then it's going to try that first again next time, right? So.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I've got the retry time to 0. So I thought that was supposed to tell it to use SSTP first each time.
That's one of the problems. I don't think this thing works at all.
Yeah, it's quite problematic. Yeah, it's highly unreliable. Yeah,
unfortunately,
and it's kind of and again, getting back to what we were talking about, is that it's one of the reasons we've kind of just said, hey, just pick one protocol or the other, and go down that lane and live with it. So SSTP for the user tunnel is fantastic. It just works everywhere. And so we usually just choose that and be done with it. And we get out of that hassle. we avoid that
and
issue.
we're also still tracking to performance-related bugs to Ike, and that's mostly noticeable on the user tunnel. The device tunnel is not that bad because it's not doing much. But on the user tunnel, it is noticeable, especially when you copy data around, then it's... So, yeah.
And Ike v2 has problems on a lot of ISP networks because they're IPv6 only. So Ike v2 doesn't play well with some of the transition and translation technologies that they use. I had a customer just last month where they're on T-Mobile, and device tunnel never works on T-Mobile. It works on other providers. And so after doing some troubleshooting, we discovered, they're using 464X lat. So
we emailed on that, right? Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yeah, absolutely. They called the ISP trying to get support, and they said, no, it's just a known limitation. Their recommendation was put IPv6 on the gateway on the VPN server, but that's not an option for my customer, unfortunately. So anyway, it's if for the device tunnel, you're stuck with it. Kind of getting to a question that came up here in a little bit, but with the user tunnel, if you go with SSTP, it's just a lot less pain.
Yep.
Appreciate the pointer. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah.
And I found this, it's an RFH, but it says frequent disconnect, reconnect cycles for Intune managed VPN profiles. Yeah. So reach out to me. That's fine. I'll see and talk to the support guys because they might not even know about this.
Good deal. Yeah. Thanks, Phil. All right. Mike, yes, NetBIOS name would not work with Kerberos. That's correct. Yeah. If you're using single label host names, then Kerberos, you fall back to NTLM, which is going to be problematic in the future, right? So anyway, definitely, you're absolutely right there. Let's see, John, seeing a few random issues over the last year where public firewall profiles being set on the SSTP user tunnel instead of domain authenticated and blocking access to DNS and internal resources. The only way to resolve it is to delete the tunnel and recreate, which immediately fixes the issue. Interesting. Any ideas on what might be causing this? Not certain. However, typically the VPN tunnel will have the domain profile if you're a domain joined device. If this is not a domain joined device, it will usually get the public or the private. There is a way to set that. There is. Are these hybrid joined? Or are they domain?
These are hybrid joined devices.
Okay.
We've had AVPN since 2019 now, and actually Philip helped us implement it on site.
Oh, great! All right.
Yeah, so I know Philip from the years back. It's been absolutely flawless for many years, but we are seeing the occasional issue with clients just all of a sudden they got public profile on their connection, and it's no idea why it's suddenly started happening, but it's very, 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 very small numbers, not many. So
interesting. Okay.
I heard that from another customer, but they can't pinpoint it.
No. It's very odd.
Interesting.
Looks like I need to fly over again, John.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, we've not logged any calls yet because we just recreate the tunnel and it's fixed it. But why it's happening in the first place? It's unusual.
Okay. So removing and re-adding the tunnel fixes it.
Yes, they straight on domain authenticate again. But is it something to do with is it NLA service, the network location awareness service?
Network location awareness, yeah.
It sounds like it's until Windows 10. From 11, it's the NetProf M, whatever the official name is.
They're changing it.
Something. Yeah, what is it? Oh God.
Network list service, is it?
Network list service. Thank you. Yeah. From 11 onwards, it's network list service does all the work, and NLA is still there, but it's a stub service, I believe. And in newer builds, it's not even running anymore.
Yeah.
So I've heard. I had a customer more or less saying the same. They're seeing this randomly, but they can't pinpoint it. And every time they try to do some tracing, it's not happening anymore. So,
no.
Classic.
Once it's broken for good, and you have to delete the tunnel.
Okay. Could be that the NLA profiles get mixed up or something, because I believe when you remove the profile, they get deleted as well.
Yes, yeah.
Let me see. Where are they? I'll try to find it and put it in the chat.
Yes, thank you, Philip.
Cool.
Very good. Yeah, thanks. Let's see. Seth, is there any future planned support for device tunnels to use anything other than IKE v2, such as allowing device tunnels to use SSTP? No chance. No chance. To be brutally honest with you. So this is a question that I have posed to the to lots of folks at Microsoft over many years. I remember. So first of all, a little bit of backstory here. The device tunnel was an afterthought for Always On VPN. When Microsoft introduced Always On VPN with Windows 8, it was designed to be a user-only solution, right? And they decided to kind of just say, hey, this is the way it's going to go. And as they started promoting it, they got a lot of pushback from their enterprise customers who said, hey, you're asking us to, pivot from direct access to Always On VPN, and Always On VPN is user-based only, but direct access is device and user-based. And so with direct access, we have pre-logon connectivity because we have domain connectivity prior to logon. And, we need feature parity in direct access. So after Always On VPN was a thing, they added support for the device tunnel. They did that later. And they did that using IKE v2 because it supported machine certificate authentication. So that was the choice. Now, I had asked initially, I said, hey, this is great. I said, but can we use SSTP for that? SSTP doesn't support device certificate authentication. SSTP is a Microsoft proprietary VPN transport. It's their protocol. They could certainly update it. I don't think there's been any appetite to do that at Microsoft forever, since I've been asking for it, which was in the Windows 8 days. And given the fact that there are, Microsoft is really pushing organizations to move towards native intra-join for endpoints. I don't think there's a use case inside Microsoft to spend development cycles on Always On VPN to support device tunnel with SSTP. That being said, Microsoft is really looking at moving towards this new zero trust platform with Entra Private Access. So I expect Always On VPN is probably kind of, I don't want to say the word deprecated, but it's certainly probably not getting any major investments in the near future because, again, Microsoft probably looks at this as a legacy platform now, and probably is going to start encouraging people to move towards Entra Private Access. So I don't hold your breath on that one, is what I'm saying. I have been asking for it for many years, and it's not something that I think is coming. So sorry to rain on your parade, Seth, but that's the reality of that. Very good. Let's see here. Susan. Oh, interesting. So Susan, you're saying that you resolved that issue by setting the private network value to true. Interesting.
Yeah, I actually copied it from you, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. So that's interesting because that was a value that was added. That was a value that was added to the VPN v2 CSP a while back, and I remember when it came up. I'm like, I basically monitor that website for any changes, and so when they add new stuff to it, I'll get an alert. And I remember when that came up, and I was looking through those new settings. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. What's this for? What's that for? So some of them I was known. I mean, some of them I could just simply drop a note to Philip and say, hey, what the heck is this? And he's on the inside. He could tell me what he sees. And so, oh yeah, well this setting is for this or that, or we had to implement it for this customer to support this scenario or whatever. But that one was interesting in that you're right. It's to set that I had completely forgot about that. So thank you for bringing that up. So I forget, who were we talking about? Was it John? with the John. So look at in the chat. Look at the post that Susan posted in there. There is, in the XML, I forgot that there's a setting that you should be able to force the domain or you should be able to force that setting to or the domain profile setting on that by using that private network true. Okay. I don't know that I have ever done any testing with that. I've not run into this issue myself, but that might be a good solution as well to go ahead and check that out.
Yeah, sorry, Walter. Thank you.
That's interesting because that setting is technically for the third-party plugins.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, but it's a VPN platform setting, so it does work for all of them. Interesting, yeah.
Oh, good, yeah. Yeah, let me know. I mean, Susan said she had good experience with it, so let's try it.
Good.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great stuff, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Any other questions at all? I don't see any more questions in the chat. Eric, question.
Yeah, what's your preferred NPS logging type? The IAS or what are the options here?
NPS logging type.
IAS, DTS, ODBC. Yeah, for the NPS logging.
Oh,
the log file.
Whatever the default is, because I don't know that I've ever changed that.
So just the IAS, I assume.
I prefer DTS compliant, but that's maybe personal preference. Sorry.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever had a problem with the default, so I've never had a reason to change it. But I think everybody's probably has a little different experience. I think it's probably more important for those that have to deal with it on an operational basis. So one of the things for me, one of the things that's a challenge is I'm an implementer. I help you install and configure, deploy these solutions, but I don't manage them on a day-to-day basis, right? And so a lot of the things like that, I may not run into an issue because I don't deal with that on a daily basis. I look at NPS logs on my lab and for troubleshooting with customers when we're doing a deployment, but I don't deal with it on a day-to-day basis, right? I would imagine that if you're trying to, do some, log ingestion to something like Splunk or QRadar or the myriad other solutions that are out there, that maybe the standard format doesn't work for you, and you might need to do something else. What I would say is I don't necessarily have a preference. I say whatever works for you is fine. I have never had a need to change it from the default, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a reason not to do that, right? So if your preferred solution prefers it in another format, then so be it. But yeah, I don't necessarily have a recommendation one or the other. So
okay, perfect.
There used to be a nice tool called IAS. IAS is, I believe, it's the old name of NPS. IAS log reader, and I believe for this one you had to change this to DTS compliant. And I think I got used to that. And
yeah. There was a freeware utility out there. I think it was IAS log viewer.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And I've used it before, and it's pretty clever. I had suggested it to a customer once, and they're like, "Oh no, we can't touch this." I'm like, "Why?" "Oh, it's from Russia." I'm like, okay. So apparently the software vendor's from Russia, and they were like, "Nope, we can't use it." I'm like, "Oh, okay," but works fantastic. I think it's still out there. Yeah, look for IAS viewer, and I believe that software is out there.
And occasionally on Windows 11 clients, they get the error, the specified port is already open.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
Is that kind of a known issue? Or?
Yep.
It is an issue from day one.
Yeah.
The problem is it's hard to track. What we would need is like a TTT, time travel trace, from the service attached before it's happening, but that's almost impossible because you can never really say when it's happening. So yes, it is. So the best option is restarting the RAS man service or the device.
Right, and that's kind of, we have to reboot the client, but I just wasn't sure if.
Yeah, you could maybe kill the service and then restart it, so you could save a reboot, but it would need to have some. A normal user can't do that, so yeah.
Yeah. Right. Are you, Eric? Are you using DPC or no?
Using, and that's maybe another question. So currently using custom XML, and that was maybe another question. Is it in the current landscape? Is the Intune native profile mature enough, or is the current recommendation still the custom XMLs?
I still use custom XML because many of the capabilities that are in custom XML are not exposed in the Intune UI. So, so in that case, I still recommend using custom XML. I was asking about DPC because DPC actually has a feature that if it detects the port in use, it will actually restart the Razman service for you. So Leo was clever enough to say, hey, listen, if we detect this, I can just kind of take the care of this problem for you. So with DPC, and this is one of the advantages of DPC, is that it's not just for managing the client. It actually has advanced capabilities built into it to make it more secure, more reliable, more stable, the connection itself even. So, but yeah, so it basically will, if it detects that, then it will automatically restart the service and then attempt to reconnect. So if you're using DPC, it's just a setting that you could use to overcome that kind of limitation. But if you're using custom XML, then unfortunately there's not a lot you can do about that. The only thing you'll have to do is just tell your users to reboot at that point.
Okay, sounds good. And we're fairly new to the Always On VPN rollout, coming from Direct Access. Any tips or tricks to shorten the Intune deployment to clients? Because when we, I think the issue now is like onboarding a new laptop. When that new laptop is added to the proper AD group, it seems to take about 24 hours until a combination of, and this kind of gets beyond what I know, but like a combination of SCCM collection stuff and Intune syncs and like whatever that whole pipeline is. It's like a 24-hour window. So kind of looking at, our guys have like looked into it, and supposedly there's not much we can change or adjust, but I was just curious if you guys had any tips or tricks.
Yeah. So good question. This is more of an Intune and systems management question. And there's, first of all, with Intune, there's always delays, right? It's not as prompt and as rapid as using Active Directory and group policy and domain join and all that stuff naturally, right? But it sounds like there's some additional things at play in your environment. If you're using SCCM, obviously you're probably putting them in groups on premises. There's a delay in which those groups get propagated to Intune, and the group membership gets populated or gets propagated to Intune. If you're doing co-management, there could be some other forces at play there that I'm not familiar with because I'm not a systems management expert. That would be more of a question for some of my systems management folks. If you're on the social media, the systems management people on there are phenomenal, great, helpful people. But either that, or you can just reach out to my good friend Johan Arvidmark at Vmonstra. Those folk can help you, but they might be able to shed some light on as to why that's taking a long time. And Johan does consulting work too, not just training. So if you want to reach out to him, he or some of his people can probably help you do some hands-on troubleshooting.
Okay. If nobody else has a question, I'll keep going.
Actually, I do want to get to John had one more question about we'll come back to you, Eric, but let me get to John's question. Would you recommend reducing certificate lifetime on internal PKI issued certificates as well? And the answer is maybe. So this goes back to the reasons why we might want to use shorter certificate lifetimes on the public internet. And I talked about all of those at the top of the webinar today, talking about some things like cryptographic agility, reducing or limiting private key exposure when there's a private key compromise and things like that. There's some advantages to doing that. there are some compelling reasons to consider shorter certificate lifetimes for enterprise PKI certificates as well. And I talk about this at length in my PKI fundamentals class on Via Monstra, as well as the Intune Master class as well. And basically, for certificates that are issued by your internal private PKI, you dictate policy and you dictate lifetimes on your PKI. You own it, you manage it. So the public is moving to 47 days, but for the private, you can do whatever you want. You could issue a certificate that's good for 50 years if you wanted to. Not saying that's a good idea, but you can, right? So ultimately, should we be following suit? In other words, are there compelling reasons to consider shorter certificate lifetimes? And I say yes in some scenarios. Perhaps for things like server authentication or RDP and other things that you might use it for internally, document signing, code signing, you probably want to use longer life certificates. Where I think short-lived certificates can be really valuable is for user and device authentication, because user and device authentication, especially with user authentication, the user certificates represent a rich target for attackers. I've often said that attackers are not they're not looking to break in; they're looking to log in, and because if they can log in, it's a much less invasive way and certainly quieter way to mount, perform surveillance and do reconnaissance and look for lateral movement and ultimately look for opportunities for privilege escalation. One of those ways to do that is to steal a certificate and be able to authenticate. Now, here's the important thing. For user and device authentication, when you're doing authentication to Active Directory, it uses an extension of the Kerberos protocol called PKInit. A long story short, all I have to do to authenticate to Active Directory using a certificate is demonstrate control of the private key. And that's why we had a conversation earlier with someone here earlier about authentication certificates and TPM, and why using TPM is crucial for protecting those private keys, because you cannot export the private key from a TPM even if you are the local administrator. But if the keys are not protected by TPM, then they are just a file on the file system protected by an ACL, which is really nothing more than a suggestion. Anybody with local administrator rights can steal that private key. If I have the private key, I can authenticate against Active Directory. And if that private key is for a privileged user, an attacker now has the ability to log on as that user, and they don't even have to know the password to the account. They just have to demonstrate control of the private key. So, as I had mentioned previously as well, detecting key compromise is difficult, if not impossible. And so it might be you might have had key compromise and may not even know it. So having shorter certificate lifetimes for user and device authentication is beneficial because it limits that exposure. Yep. Also, for privileged accounts, it might be good to drastically reduce them because, hey, those are high privilege. If you're not assigning them to TPM or you're not doing TPM enforcement, I would absolutely say, shorter the better. You can, if you're confident that you're using TPM, then, and there are ways to do that on the template, you can restrict enrollment to the platform crypto provider to ensure that TPM is used. In that scenario, you could do a longer certificate because you have confidence in the assurance of knowing, hey, the private key can't be compromised, so I'm more comfortable with a 6-month or a 1-year certificate. But if you're issuing a certificate to a user, especially a privileged one, and they can't use TPM, I would say as short as you're comfortable with. So yeah, there are some scenarios in which you might want to consider shorter certificate lifetimes, even with ADCS. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for that advice. We are using TPM for pretty much all our certs anyway. So
great, yeah. And as long as, and again, the key here is as long as you are using TPM exclusively, and for everybody else on the call, John, you may know this, but for everybody else on the call, on the template, you can define the CSP, the cryptographic service provider, that the endpoint must use to enroll for the certificate. And what you can say is, hey, the only way you can enroll for this certificate is if you use your TPM. And what that means is that if you don't have a TPM, you can't enroll for it. So the certificate is, if you got the certificate, then you had to have had a TPM. And then you have that. You can sleep well knowing, hey, all of my certificates are well protected and I'm in good shape.
Yeah.
Good deal. Philip, issue to be fixed in May, IPv6 ESP over cellular WAN. Awesome. Oh, that is the packet discard issue. Yes. Wow, that one's been a bug for a long time. Can you talk more about that one?
Yeah, it's more than a year, or probably more than that even.
Yes.
So,
I thought it was Windows 10.
it started in 11.
Okay.
I think it's fine in 10, but it started in 11.
Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe it's a different bug. Yeah. But yes,
So
this packet layout parsing thing. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, so it's only happening when you're on a cellular or WWAN connection.
Yep.
And if it's IPv6 ESP traffic, because the packet parsing engine doesn't see it as ESP traffic and discards it.
Ooh. Oh, okay. Got it. All right, awesome.
And
Okay, so this may be similar to another problem that was in Windows 10 that never got fixed in Windows 11. I don't know if it ever got fixed, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I believe I believe it's there from the first Windows 11 version, because it probably was introduced by some security fix.
Got it. Okay, good.
Never happened before. Yeah.
And that's 5B?
Most likely.
Got it. Okay, good deal. That's kind of a corner case, but that's still good to know.
It took us terabytes of data to get to the bottom of this, because
I can imagine. I can imagine. Good deal. All right. Cool. Any other questions, Eric? You had more questions?
If that's all right, I was just curious if anybody else deploys both the user and device tunnel to AD groups that only contain computer objects. Do you see that ever?
This is strictly AD or Intune?
It is. I mean, it's the so custom XML via Intune, but pushing both tunnels. So I thought in the book, your book, it mentioned, computers should be in groups used for the device tunnel. Yep. Users should be in groups for the user tunnel. Yep. But I'm doing computer objects for both tunnels. Okay. And was just curious if anybody else does that, or. Got
it. Yeah. That would be that's a good question. So I typically recommend, as a practice, target user settings at users and device settings at devices, but that doesn't mean you can't. They're not exclusive, right? So in other words, you can absolutely target user settings at devices. What it means is that anybody logging onto that device under Intune management would get those settings regardless of what group they were in, right? That may or may not be desirable, but that's entirely it's up to you. It really depends. The scenario that might play out is you might end up with settings applying to users you didn't intend, or you might apply settings to devices that maybe you don't intend as well. But typically, if they're under Intune management, they're going to be your devices anyway, right? So it's not like it's not super high risk. It's more of a preference than anything. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, opening that up for the group, does anybody else do that, or for anybody on the call doing Intune, does anybody deploy user tunnel settings to machines as opposed to users? Show of hands or come off mute. Anybody? Nobody using Intune? All right, that's rather inconclusive, Eric, but
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, yeah. It's not uncommon. I would share that. And ultimately, it's really a design decision. Whatever fits for you. The end result will be the same. Even if you're deploying the user tunnel settings at a device group, it just means when that user logs on, the profile isn't assigned. The profile assignment happens because of their device group membership as opposed to their user group membership. And by the way, to clarify that though, are you talking about the targeting of the profile, or are you talking about the OMA URI path where you use .user or .device?
No, the targeting of the two Intune policies.
Okay, so the targeting of the policies itself, yeah. So in that case, absolutely. Whatever works best for you will work. I mean, at the end of the day, the users and devices get the right profiles. If that's happening, then it certainly works well. Yeah.
Perfect. And I was also curious if anybody else uses the trusted network detection on the device tunnel to turn it off once the user tunnel activates. Because that seems to be how it behaves for us, is that the device tunnel kicks in, but after the user logs in, it shuts off the device tunnel. So there's only a single tunnel running per client.
So I'll share with you that that's not how it's supposed to work. So trusted network detection happens once at interface when there's an interface status change, right? So if a network, any network adapter on the device goes up or down, any status change, the Always On VPN logic will perform that trusted network detection, right? So there's a status change. It then says, hey, is trusted network detection enabled? Yes or no? And then it will follow. It goes through that course of processing that. Once the interface is established, then it should remain connected. Now, if the user tunnel comes up, typically what happens is that the user tunnel will come up and just establish, and it won't bother the device tunnel. The device tunnel will stay up. However, I have seen frequently scenarios where the trusted network detection seems to reevaluate, like the creation of a user tunnel actually forces the reevaluation of the TN trusted network detection on the device tunnel, and the device tunnel detects that the user tunnel is established and has that adapter, has that profile or the DNS suffix, and won't start. Again, it's not designed to do that, but it's a happy coincidence because it's technically the way I think it should work, right? Once we have the user tunnel, we don't need the device tunnel anyway. And so when it happens that way, great, but I don't have any guarantees. It's not the way it's supposed to work. I don't have any guarantees that it will always work that way, but it does happen. And when it does, I just accept it and deal with it. But again, it's not really designed to work that way, to be clear.
So people typically keep up two tunnels per endpoint.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, and you should plan for that because you have no guarantees that the device tunnel will acquiesce once the user tunnel is established. So in that case, you have to prepare for the eventuality that all of your connections would consume 2 IP addresses, or all of your endpoints would consume 2 IP addresses.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, good. Any other questions at all? Seth, you got a question?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. We've actually experienced the same thing as what Eric is describing. We're using DPC for our deployment. We're not using Intune, but we've had instances where you can look at the network connections and you can see that the device tunnel has disconnected, but the user tunnel remains established, and that's great and fine. The user tunnel provides all the connectivity the client needs, map drives, printing, whatever, but because we have DNS registration on the device tunnel, it makes management sometimes an issue. And so what we've resorted to doing, and it's a bit frustrating, but it is a workaround solution, is we've deployed a PowerShell script to users' machines that basically the PowerShell script, what it does is it uses the RAS dial to force a disconnect of both tunnels. It then deletes the profiles, using get all VPN connection or all user connection, then deletes them, and then restarts the DPC service, which subsequently, after a couple of seconds or so, recreates the profiles, and then both tunnels connect up flawlessly. And so I'm not sure what it is that causes that device tunnel to disappear, but it is something that we have run into, and that's kind of our workaround or solution, because it seems that after you run that and you clear out and rebuild those profiles, they both connect right back up and they're fine.
Interesting. And that's unusual. I've not heard of that being a workaround. Most of the time, we'll just like restart like the like the wireless interface, just shut it down, basically bounce the interface, and then usually they'll both pick up and work. But yeah, that's interesting. Philip, you had something to contribute there?
I think Steve has his hand up as well. I think he was before me.
Oh, okay, good, Steve. Yeah. Well, actually, backing up, did that answer your question? I apologize. I thought Philip was going to contribute to that conversation. Sorry, but yeah. Anyway, going back to your DPC issue. Yeah, I don't know with the trusted network detection that I am not aware necessarily, I guess, of anything that is other than those types of workarounds. I just kind of have to deal with it. So
is TND on both tunnels active, or is it only configured on one? Because if you only have it on one, I believe this is the sort of expected scenario.
Only on the device tunnel. Yeah, I think I was playing with both, and they would turn each other off. So I think I just left it. Device shuts off when user activates. So.
I believe I've seen this before when TND is not present on both tunnels, because it needs to be either on one. It needs to be either on both or on none. But I think if you only have it on one, you end up in this situation. And you might also end up in the situation if you allow the users to uncheck this connect automatically dial, right? Which can now be prevented on newer Windows 11 versions. So I believe I've seen this before when you have TND only set on the device tunnel or only on the user tunnel, or the configuration of TND is different. So my rule of thumb is if you set it on both of them and set it to the same configuration, and then usually it works fine. And you might run into this when you allow users to do this connect automatically or uncheck that box, because that's actually causing the auto trigger to go away. But that can be prevented. There's no profile XML for that, I believe, from Windows 11, some version on. So yeah, I think I've seen this before. And and technically, as Rich said, both tunnels, or it's actually designed for both tunnels to stay active. You might say, okay, I don't need a device tunnel anymore, which is true. Although, what if you log off and someone logs onto the device for the first time? They would need a device tunnel, right? So there would need to be some logic then when it's disabled or disconnected, it would need to be then reconnected. But I don't think we ever built that in.
Well, and complicating things is that he's using DNS registration on the device tunnel, so that registers in DNS, and then the tunnel drops, and so now you want to manage it, and that tunnel's not up. So, so that, and again, that's kind of the recommendation that I have been going with since the beginning of time, is if you're going to do device tunnel and user tunnel, do a DNS registration on one, because if you have it on both, it causes problems or unexpected. You get wonky.
You've got two DNS entries, right? So that's not great,
and so
interesting that you say that. I've got a few customers nowadays. They do they set the register DNS on the user tunnel, because they're saying that's usually up, and if that's not up, the user is not there. We're fine.
Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah.
Okay.
If I might,
it's really a preference.
If I might add also too, if you try and force a connection of the device tunnel from the command line with RAS style, the device tunnel will connect, but it drops the user tunnel, and the user tunnel won't. So I don't know if that little bit of information helps, but that's but it is interesting. So yeah, we've just resorted to just basically clearing out the profiles, restarting the service, and letting it come back up, which is frustrating, but it is what it is.
And you have TND on both tunnels.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that should not happen then. Yeah.
Yeah, hard to say. But if you have a workaround, it's a little clunky, but it sounds like you got something which is better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. Just wanted to throw it out to the group, see if anybody was experiencing the same.
Yeah, good. Cool. Steve, you had a question?
It's actually, it just had a comment on what you guys were just discussing. Okay. We haven't actually implemented the user tunnel yet. We're device tunnel only right now. Okay. But in our scenario in testing the user tunnel, I ran into that same issue where the device tunnel would drop once the user tunnel connected. And so just using Copilot and just asking questions and everything, it came back with if you have duplicate routes in both tunnels, it can cause the drop of the device tunnel. So I tested that, removed the duplicate routes, and just had and it worked. The device tunnel stayed connected. So, but keep in mind, like I said, we don't have this in production, so that was just testing that I was
very interesting.
Doing. Yeah.
Well,
so anyway,
that's certainly
thought I'd say that.
That is good to know. Thanks for sharing that information, because I usually recommend duplicate routes by design. And the reason I do that is that we want, the way I deploy this is I will configure the user tunnel so that when the user tunnel comes up, all traffic flows over the user tunnel. And so since you usually have host routes like /32 IPv4 routes on the device tunnel, and so those will always take precedence over the user tunnel for that traffic. So you have traffic going over the user tunnel, but some of the traffic, typically like domain controllers and stuff, would still go over the device tunnel. And there could be problems. And what I found is that if we just forced everything over the user tunnel, that things became operationally more stable and reliable. And the way we do that is we create the same route in the user tunnel and the device tunnel, right? So 10.10.10.10/32 in both the user and the device tunnel, but we use a lower route metric on the user tunnel so that it's preferred. So even though there's duplicate routes, there's a different metric, and so that's preferred. And I do that by design, and DPC has an option that you can enable that does that as well automatically. So that's interesting. I was unaware that that could be creating that potential side effect. That's unusual. I'll have to do some more. I'll do some more testing on that and see what I can learn from that. But that's an interesting observation for sure.
Maybe if it's the same metric.
Yeah, well, I use a different metric, so it's the same route, but it's a lower metric.
No, I mean maybe in this scenario the same metric is being used on both routes, and that could cause some inconvenience.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. The metric was the same.
Okay, yeah. So typically when I have duplicate routes, then I will use a lower metric on the user tunnel. That way, they're duplicate, but the user tunnel route will always be preferred.
Something I think we can change on our end, because we're not setting any metrics on that, and for our device tunnel we just have like 5 or 6 IP addresses to our domain controllers, certificate server, and a couple others, just 32-bit addresses. So maybe with that advice I can go back, we can look at our user tunnel and just lower the route metric on those.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, let me know what you find.
Really
appreciate it. Let me know what you find. Yeah, I appreciate it. Cool. Any other questions at all? I have a couple of questions came up in the chat, but I want to see if anybody else, I don't know if anybody else had their hand raised or not. So let's see here. Getting back to Eric's question in the custom XML EAP section, is this true or false? There seems to be a similar NPS setting to disconnect clients without crypto binding. Yes, crypto binding. So crypto binding, just for everyone's edification. So there's a setting in the EAP configuration settings in VPN that it says to disconnect if crypto binding is not present. I forget what the actual syntax is there, but crypto binding is a crucial security aspect of EAP. Basically, crypto binding is it's a type length value, and it is part of the authentication package or authentication flow. Ultimately, what it is this: when two peers the VPN client and the Radius server, when you're communicating with them to perform authentication, the last step of that is that the client and server exchange this crypto binding TLV, type link value. It is basically a hash of all of the messages that they used during the authentication exchange. The idea here is that if the hash doesn't match, in other words, if I send you a hash of all the messages that I sent and you compute that hash and it's different, the connection was probably being tampered with, right? So it might have been manipulated. And so the idea behind that is that crypto binding is a great way to detect adversary in the middle attacks. Now, it is optional. So, for example, if the server or the client does not send it, by default, the authentication process completes. It will just ignore it and say, oh, you didn't send it to me, so let's just go ahead and authenticate. However, this gives the attacker the ability to modify those packets and then just discard the TLV when it's sent, and then the other side will go, oh, you didn't send it to me. Even though the client did, the server can say, I didn't get it, or I didn't, whatever, and so allow it. And so it's a fantastic way to ensure that we are detecting adversary in the middle attacks. And so it prevents an attacker from dropping the TLV when it's in transit to cover their tracks. What we're saying is that, hey, the crypto binding TLV must match, but if you don't get one, that is an indication of shenanigans, and drop the connection because it's probably being tampered with. So that's where we are in that area. Does that make sense?
I think so. I just noticed it was set to false in my EAP config, and so
okay. We usually require it. We usually like to set that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You got it. Andrew, we've had a lot of problems with AOVPN remaining connected with Xfinity and Comcast. Any ideas on how to fix or cut down those disconnects? Specifically Xfinity and Comcast, huh? That's interesting. So one of the things with Xfinity and Comcast, and this goes back to something that I've mentioned a couple of times in this call, is that those networks, those ISP networks, are running IPv6 only. And so they run IPv4 as a service. And so many of the problems that you're seeing might be related to those transition and translation technologies. So I don't have a good answer for you on that, other than if it's reliable on one ISP and not another, then empirically you would think it's a problem with the ISP. What that is specifically, I don't know. It could very well be related to those types of things. And there's no real good workaround other than if you could try to get to IPv6. Unfortunately, a lot of these ISPs are doing, again, native IPv6, and so IPv4 is a second-class citizen on these networks. And so you're subject to these transition and translation technologies that make things complicated. They introduce latency, and there's always potential for challenges and issues there. So if you can get to native IPv6, that'd be great. Although we've had a couple of customers or a couple of folks on the call today talking about challenges with IPv6 native. So I don't know that that's going to be a great answer either. But anyway, yeah, switching the router to bridge mode and using a non-ISP router seems, yeah. Oh, that's interesting too. By the way, if you're using IKV2 is much more sensitive to those types of problems than SSTP. So if you're using IKV2, Andrew, you may want to try SSTP. You might find that might be more reliable. But and most of that is because many consumer and like home broadband routers and firewalls just don't do NAT very well. And IKV2 is very sensitive to using NAT. And so if it's not doing the right things, that doesn't surprise me that switching out the router or the firewall or maybe even the modem would probably solve some of those problems. So good to know. Good to know. Let's see here. John, we have the recently deployed Zscaler client connector had problems with dynamic DNS registration on our SSTP user connection related to the secure process involved with secure dynamic DNS. Zscaler is working on a fix. Awesome. I don't have any I don't know any of my customers that are using Zscaler today. That's interesting. So I'm assuming that these are security capabilities that are breaking that. Are they preventing? Explicitly preventing?
If you look at right Wireshark, and you can see the DNS registration happening, and it's using the domain name as a transaction going on, which uses a domain which is being picked up by Zscaler client and being blocked, and that breaks dynamic DNS.
Oh, interesting. And I wasn't aware of that, but they are aware of it as a problem.
Very surprising that Zscaler were not aware of it. We got a workaround now to fix it, but
good.
Quite surprising.
Very interesting. Oh, well, good to know. Thanks for the information. If anybody else on the call has Zscaler and has this problem, they know that it is being addressed. But they do have a workaround. That's good.
Yeah, it was a workaround. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Good to know. Awesome. Any other questions at all? Cool. Productive session today. Thanks everybody for joining us. I mean, I usually block out 2 hours for this. I don't have a hard limit, so I can sit here and talk for hours. But anyway, it's been a great session. So if there's not any other questions, maybe we'll wrap things up. Eric, you said, are you locally hosted domains excluded in your Zscaler app profile? Yeah, good question. Sean, is that
that's what we had to do? We had to put workarounds in to exclude domains, which wasn't well.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, that's a workaround, but
I have
want to do that. But...
Oh, awesome, man! I have no experience with Zscaler, so
it was a bit of a faff, really.
Other than it interferes with a lot of things we're usually trying to do, and then we end up having to do stuff like that. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So fun with security. Cool. All right, folks. Looks like is there any other questions? We'll go ahead and wrap it up. I would say if you have any other questions between now and the next AMA, hit the Discord channel, discord.aovpndpc.com. We can chat there anytime. But anyway, as always, thank you everybody so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Hopefully you found this useful and informative. We'll do another one again soon, but until then, you know where to find me. I'm all over the internet. So I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and various different places. But if you go to richardhicks.com/connect, that'll take you to a menu of all of the places that you can find me. And if you have questions at all, feel free to drop me a note. I'm always here to answer questions. You can send me email directly. You can meet me on these social media platforms and ask me questions. Don't hesitate to reach out. Consider me a resource. Always happy to help you out. If you need or want to look at the CertKit platform in more detail, or if you have more questions on that, because I kind of breezed over it a little bit today, I'd be happy to give you a demonstration of that and kind of show you exactly how it works with Always On VPN or Direct Access or any other workloads you might be using. Just reach out to me and just say, hey, listen, I'd like to look at CertKit some more, and I'd be happy to share that with you in more detail and individually if you like. So other than that, thank you everybody. Thanks for joining, and I look forward to talking to all of you again soon. Cheers.